All right, here we are, my friends. Today we're going to learn Chumash. Chumash. A little bit late start, but tomorrow, God willing, the jet lag, I hope, will all be lagged out, and we'll start learning again like we should. So here we go. Let's see, how do we get the picture over here in the corner? There must be some way to do this. 1 second. Oh, I know. Go like this. Go like this. There we go. Oh. So here we have this weird story we talked about in the morning, about the flood. Noah and the flood. Because Noah was a righteous person and nobody else was. Everyone was just partying without any limit. No end to the perversions and debauchery and what's the word for it? I'll think what the word is. There's a word for like perversions, but in any case, decadence. Oh, no end to the decadence going on over there. Everybody was having what they thought was a really good time. And the fact of the matter is they were just using their fathers, their inheritance, their treasures, or their grandfather, whatever it was that they inherited, just to squander all of their energy and their power for selfish matters. So God said, okay, enough. I had enough of these guys. I'm destroying the whole world. So we learned in the Chassidus this morning, why did God do it with water? Because it was really to purify the world. These people had no justice. There was no, excuse for their existence. They were just misusing everything. And that's not why people are here. People are supposed to be here in order to improve the world. That's why people are supposed to make a better world, not just have a good time at everybody else's expense. So that's what happened. God made a flood and he destroyed everybody. So there were so many interesting things that we could talk about, about the ark and how about the size of the ark. It was, pretty small. It came out to be pretty small. It was 50 amos, 30 amos. Here, let's just look for 1 second. Here we go. 300 amos. Here, look, let's have a look. 300 by 50 by 30. It was 300 by 50, 300 amos long, which is about 450 feet. And 30 amos high, which that's like, 30 amos is like 45 feet. So it was 3 floors. The bottom floor was for all the refuse and things like that. And the middle floor was where the animals lived. And the top floor was where Noah lived. So it was pretty amazing that there's such a small area could contain so many animals. But also there's big, deep secrets involved in there because there's the number 15 appears over and over again. And 15 is the first 2 letters of God's name, Yud and Hey. Is the Chumash of 15. Let's see, here it is. Another thing you can learn from is that Noah was 600 years old when this happened. So it's never too late. Well, I don't think any of our readers are 600 years old, but Noah was, and God made a whole new world. And here it goes. Here, this you make the amos is 300 amos long. An amos is like 1.5 feet. 300 amos long, 50 amos wide. 50 amos means like what? 75 feet wide, and 30 amos high. So it's pretty hard to get all the elephants and all the other weirdo animals that were there to get them. Oh, here we go. To get all the animals into such a small place. That was a big miracle. And also, it says because when a man and a woman get married, there's the Kli Ykar. When a man and a woman get married, so it says that man is Ish and woman is Isha. So we have the letter Yud and the letter Hey. 1 second. It's a beautiful Kli Ykar over there. When a man and woman get married, so there is, it says it's Aish with a Yud in it, that's Ish, and a Isha is an Aish with a Hey in it. The word Aish means fire. So it says that because they didn't use the name of God properly. In other words, they didn't want to have children, they just wanted to have for their own selves. So there was the Yud and the Hey weren't there. And they were given to Noah. That's why his ark was 15, 300 long, 50 wide. That's 300, that comes out to 15,000. So 15. In any case, he got the number 15, and that was God's name. And everybody else, they got the fire. So it says the water was boiling hot. And the reason it had to be there for a year, we explained in the Chassidut that the water was purifying, and why did it need to be a year? To show that it was not there just to kill everybody, because it could have killed everybody in the first few minutes. And God didn't even have to have water to do it. Okay, so that's one thing. So Noah is stuffed in this ark with all these animals for one full year. Not very pleasant, but all the animals, amazingly, they all got along. And Noah took a pair of each animal, the unclean animals, camels and whatever it is, lions, elephants, and for all the pure animals, in other words, the animals which are permissible to eat, and especially the animals that could be sacrificed on the altar, he took seven animals. I mean, actually, I never really looked into this. I should look at it. I just thought of it now. I mean, it says the reason he took all the clean animals, 7 is in order to offer them up. But there are a lot of clean animals that cannot be offered in the holy temple as offerings. Those animals are called chaya, like deers and antelopes and mountain goats and things like that. Did he bring 7 of each of those in? I don't know. Next class, I'll try to give an answer to that question. Apparently not, but I'm not sure. Okay, so now the water goes down, right? So God remembers Noah and all the animals and all the chayas, says the chaya, all these pure animals. In this case, I think chaya means all the impure animals as well, the lions and all the behemoths that were with him. Anyway, so the water goes down. It takes a long time, and the water goes down, and he sends out a dove, and another dove, and this, and a crow, and he sends out the third dove, sends out, and finally says the water kept coming down. Here we go. It says, after he sent out a raven, and he sent out a dove, and he sent out, the dove couldn't find anything, and he sent out another dove, and it came back to him with this, with a olive branch, which that's become the sign of peace. Why it's a sign of peace, I really don't know. Because it says that why did it bring an olive branch back? Because it said, I'd rather eat from olives, which are bitter. You ever eat an olive off of a tree? Terrible. I mean, don't do it. Or if you do it, don't tell anybody I told you to, because it's bitter. Oh, it's terrible. You have to process the olives. Anyway, the dove said, I would rather have bitter food that I earned myself than get it for free in the ark. So what that has to do with peace, I don't exactly know. In any case, I guess peace, because it's a sign that the flood had cleaned the world up. Anyway, so he finally sends the last dove out, and it doesn't come back. So he knows it's all dried up. Okay, so God says to Noah, go out from the ark, you and your wife, your children, and their children, and all the animals, and etc. And everyone should go out. And Noah built an altar. He built an altar, and he started sacrificing from all these pure animals and birds that he had brought with him. He said, he said to himself, that's why God told me I should bring 7 in order to sacrifice them. So that's what he did, sacrifice them. God smelled the smell of the offerings. And God said to himself, I will not curse man or the ground because of man anymore. Why? Because I created man that he has a selfish heart from the beginning. So it's sort of my fault. So I'm not going to do it anymore. I won't curse people like I did before. Therefore, and also the seasons are not going to stop. When the flood was there were no seasons. Everything, the whole celestial movement stopped. Okay, so now God blesses Noah and his sons, and it says, have children, be fruitful, increase the world, and fill up the world. Your fear will be on all the animals and the birds and everything on the ground if you just act like a human being. All the people. But one thing is, don't eat meat taken from a living animal. But when an animal is still alive, you can eat any animals you want to. But in the beginning, when God created man, so he said you can't eat from any animals, you can't kill any animals and eat them. You can only eat vegetables and fruits. Some say that even to Adam, that if animals died on their own, that he could eat them. He was allowed to. He just wasn't allowed to kill animals. But with Noah, God said, now you can kill animals and you can eat the animals. And you're doing them a big favor if you do so, because now you're a holy person. Before you, everybody was animals. All the human beings were like animals. They just did whatever they wanted to. And now you showed me that a person can defy his nature, Noah. So from now on, you're higher than animals. You can elevate the animals. You can eat animals. But you have to be sure that the animal is dead before you take meat from it. And this is the seventh of the 7 Noahide commandments. Adam was already given 6. Don't worship anything except for God, the God that's going to take the Jews out of Egypt. Idolatry is forbidden. Don't worship anything except for God. The creator of the universe. Can't worship people, can't worship this. Don't blaspheme God. Don't say bad things about him. Don't use God's name improperly. Don't kill. Don't steal. Don't commit adultery, homosexuality, taking somebody else's wife. Forbidden. You have to make a judicial courts to enforce all these previous 5. One second. I get it here. One second. I have to do this. Stand over. There we go. You have to appreciate that. And now he's giving the 7th prohibition, which is don't eat meat or a limb taken from an animal before it died. In other words, you can take meat from an animal and eat it. You can eat meat from an animal, but you can't eat meat that was taken from an animal before it died. Even after the animal dies, you can't take it. Okay. So Rashi says, it's called a limb from a living animal. And there's all the time that an animal is alive, you cannot eat the meat taken from that animal. Okay, there's another thing you also can't do, and that is kill people. You can't kill yourself. But your blood from your soul, you can't take it. What does it mean, blood? Even though it says Rashi, even though they permitted you that you can take and kill animals, but you cannot kill yourself. You can't take blood from yourself. And even if you don't take blood, even, God forbid, a person chokes himself, hangs himself, even though there's no blood comes out, you can't kill yourself. Forbidden. Forbidden to do. You can say, what do you mean forbidden? How can a person get punished? He's already dead. So the answer is there is afterlife. And you are eternally responsible for what you do in this world. It doesn't end here. And it says, Miad kol chaya, that because the generation of the Mabul, that was just killed in the flood, they all sinned as hufkru l'machal. Therefore, animals, there became this thing of evil, what it says, the carnivorous animals. So therefore, you had to warn them on the achayas. They had to warn the animals also, don't eat people. Miyad kol chaya, it says, Miyad kol chaya adrashenu. Animals also are not supposed to kill people unless people act like animals. That's what it says, the story of Daniel in the lion's den, why they didn't eat him up, because they just acted like animals are supposed to act. They can't eat people if people act like people, if they act human. Also, if a person kills somebody else in private, right? There's no witnesses. God says, don't worry about it. I see it. Even if a person kills by accident, says, ish esachiv. Even if you kill someone that you like, how would you kill someone you like? By accident. It says, Ani Yadrosh, I will demand that I will take retribution for the murderer, even if he killed by accident. Unless he bakesh, lo yiga le bakesh ad she'amoni imchol. Says unless the person confesses his sin and requests the mercy from God. So here we learn that the way to achieve forgiveness for sins is just to confess to God. Right? You confess to God, and God will forgive your sins. That's it. God is pretty good. Of course, a person that kills on purpose, you can confess all you want to, and maybe God will even forgive you, but there's punishment in court. Same thing in Jewish law. A Jew kills another Jew on purpose, and there's witnesses, etc. As that person is killed, even though he gets forgiveness from God. It says that the punishment for killing a person, it wipes out the sin, if the person also requests forgiveness. So to achieve forgiveness in Judaism is not so difficult, even though it's difficult to ask God for forgiveness. That people don't do. But once a person does, as God forgives. Not like those bizarre, sick religions, I'm sorry to say it, but it really is true, that say that everybody is doomed, that everybody's going to die automatically, unless they believe in a person or something like that, which is really very strange. And the people believe this stuff. I don't believe anyway. I guess if the Israelis can believe in the corona and then this and these things, I guess that anybody can believe anything. Okay, here we go. So now we're going. A person who spills blood, his blood will be spilled because in the image of God, man is made. So this is talking about non-Jews that hadn't been. This is before Abraham. The flood was before Abraham. How long ago? 400 years, something before Abraham was the flood. So it says a person who kills somebody else will get punished. Why? Because man is made in the image of God. So what's going on over here? You might think, listen, one second, God just permitted, it says, V'beichin shalmata. It says the reason is like this. This is the sforno. The reason that God will take retribution if you kill another person, and why will he take retribution if you kill a cow? Unlike the PETA people, whatever these people are. They say, that cows are people and chickens are people. Maybe chickens are better than people. They're certainly better than the people who kill them, according to them, but it's not so. The fact of the matter, you can say whatever you want to, but it's not so. The fact of the matter is that people are a superior form of life than animals are. And the reason is because you might think not. You might think not. You might think that man is just like what do they say? What do they call it? The hairless ape or something? Bald ape, naked ape. I don't know, whatever they call it. You might think that a man is just another form of life, it's just like a superior sort of worm or something. That he has which that's what basically all the French philosophers and these people, that's what they say, these guys, existentialists. Man is just like a very intelligent dog or something. Exactly the opposite. Okay, anyway. Ki b'tzelem Elokim, because man was not like the animals. The man is made in the form of God. So nivdalim, therefore they are different, and they're called God in a way. God made them ezameam et adam ki omnam. Even though God made all the creations, but some of them He made into what's called Adam. Because since God said Naaseh Adam, there was power in these creations that are called men, that they can intellectually come to conclusions about their creator, and they can influence the whole entire world in the form of God, to do what God wants. And because that's the whole thing of a human soul. A human being has got, I guess you can say, a conscience, right? That from here he is intelligent, and therefore is fitting that he, instead of just being for himself like all the other animals, he can actually have a positive effect on the whole rest of the world. So because he can do this more than any of the other animals, so he is in the image of God. So every human being is made in the image of God. Right? The Jewish people are called the sons of God. That's another level of closeness, but that's not in any way to minimize the image of God, which is in everybody. So now God is giving everybody a commandment: be fruitful and multiply and increase in the world. Right? So Rashi says, it said before they should have children, but this first one is talking about the first one was a blessing, and here's the commandment. It was optional. First, it was giving a commandment. If you decide to have children, then you'll be blessed. And here is God said, I want you to decide to have children. It's a commandment to do. Now, there's a very interesting implications that come out of this, and that is in the 7 Noahide commandments. Are non-Jews, are they bound nowadays by this commandment? If so, then things like prostitution, doing things that will make it impossible to give birth to children. I'm not talking about homosexuality and those things, which that's forbidden from another reason. We're talking about just in general for people to, make efforts to birth control, things like that. Is that forbidden for a non-Jew? I mean, we're not talking about getting punished or anything, but we're talking about wanting to do what God wants. Now, for sure, I mean, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said many, many, many times that the more people that are in the world, the better. Not like there's really sick things going around in the world. I mean, it's been going on for a long time, but now it's really prevalent. There's too many people in the world. I can't believe people say that. I mean, even those people that are saying this, which I don't know if they have a right to live or not. They're also precious. They're also creations. You can't say, too many people in the world, so we'll kill you. No, so it's not have to kill people, just prevent them from being born. That's the way. So, I mean, would they have liked it if they would have been prevented to be born? Maybe that's what they're trying to say, is that they would have rather not been born. They would have rather not been born. But here we have a commandment to have children. They should have children, as many as possible. Okay, I would like to go into this more, but there's a beautiful Ohr HaChaim over here also that talks about this commandment, but that's all. So it seems from this that it is not permissible to have birth control, etc. and etc. I mean, you'll have to provide for the children, some way that the unwanted children, but I don't know if there'll be such a thing. Everybody will want children are so precious. Okay. Vayomer Elohim. So now God says to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, listen, I am going to make a covenant with you. What's going on over here? Noah was worried. Listen, you want me to have children? I'm going to have these children. But I mean, Noah was just saying, listen, God, I mean, I just finished a big traumatic experience, namely that you, God, destroyed the whole entire world. And I was floating on top of all these dead people. I mean, maybe you didn't see them floating around because it says the water was boiling. I don't know. Maybe the fish ate them. I don't. However it was, before Noah got into the ark, there was a lot of people in the world. And after he got out of the ark, there weren't. There was just, how many people? There was just 8 people. Him and his wife and his 3 sons and their wives. That's it. And so, I mean, that's a pretty traumatic experience, getting out of this is no. So now God's saying, no big deal. Make more children. So Noah was worried. And he said, listen, God, I want you to give me a promise that you won't destroy the world again. I mean, I'm going to have these children. Maybe they'll make the same mistake as the previous generation. And that's what God said. I agree with what you say, and I'm going to make a covenant with you, and I'm going to make a sign. What is the sign that God made? I'm going to make a sign with you and all of the living things that are with you, the animals, the birds, the animals, all of the living animals, everything that comes out of the earth, the ark. I'm going to make everything goes out of the ark for all of the living things in the world. I'm going to make this covenant with you, and I will not destroy any more everybody from the waters of a flood. But God really meant by any means, not just by a flood. It means I won't do it like a flood. It says, what is this? And I'm going to make a sign. Lo ya'od mabul l'shachis. There won't be anything like a flood that will destroy the whole world. And so what is this going to be? It says, what's the sign going to be? Everybody knows. Beautiful. Here we have a beautiful Ohr HaChaim. Maybe I can look at the end of it. 1 second. Which one are we on now? Yud Aleph. Oh, here we had a nice one. Here's one second. I skipped one thing. Here's the Baal HaTurim. Watch this. Baal HaTurim. I'm going to give my covenant with you. Said, we go back. I'm making a covenant with you. What is the covenant? The Baal HaTurim. Yaakov Baal HaTurim. And he said, he likes these gematrias and rosh tev. Anyway, he says, take the end letters. Sof tev is metim. Mem, taf, yud, mem means dead. My covenant is with the dead. What does that mean? Rem is this hint at tchiyat metim, that there's going to be the rising of the dead. Shashem makim laem brito lachayotim, that God is going to bring them to life. So here we have a hint that even non-Jews will raise up in the raising of the dead. Huh? There's different explanations of how this exactly works. I mean, going to heaven is, it's pretty good. Go up to heaven. I don't know why he has to raise the dead up for. But nevertheless, I guess we don't realize the importance and the holiness of this physical world. Anyway, we'll talk. That's especially with the Jews. The Jews do the commandments. But here he's saying, at least according to the Baal HaTurim, that if the non-Jews do what God wants, that they also have a certain degree of the raising of the dead. Huh? Pretty good. So, in other words, this world is more eternal than we can imagine. Okay, so God says, what is this covenant I'm going to put in the heavens? Let's see, did I write this down over here? I looked this over. No, I didn't write it down. Okay. All right. I would like to do this, but I'm not. I'm going to do this one. God said, this is the sign that I'm going to put in the heavens between me and you and all the sons. What is going to be the sign? Ready? What is this sign going to be, says Rashi? It says, the Dorot, for you and all the generations afterwards. We're going to see, of course, it's the rainbow. And what is this sign? The word Dorot for the generations is written missing two vavs. Dorot. See, there should be a vav here, but there's not. To tell you, there's some generations that they don't need this sign. They don't need the rainbow, because in this generation, God didn't have to look at the rainbow to remember not to destroy them. These people were big tzaddikim, like the generation of Chezkiyahu, the king of Yehuda. All the prophecies of Isaiah that talk about Mashiach coming and the suffering servant and all this is talking about, either it's talking about the Jewish people or it's talking about Chezkiyahu the Melech. God wanted to make Chezkiyahu the king. He wanted to make him Mashiach. Chezkiyahu was supposed to be Mashiach. And he made some sort of a small, minuscule mistake, and God said no, but he wanted to make him Mashiach anyway. So he was such a tremendously righteous person that God didn't need a rainbow to remind him not to destroy the generation. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So he asked a question over here, how can it possibly be that just because of one person, it didn't destroy the generation? So it says, here, this is the end of the Ohr HaChaim that I wanted to do. So it says that the why. Where is this? Where is this? Eh, eh, where is this? 1 second. Excuse me 1 minute. Sorry. Anyway, what he says is like this. I'll have to say it. I can't find it over. He says that because they were such big tzaddikim, is they taught everybody in their generation. They had an effect on everyone. They had an effect on everyone in the generation. They taught them all so that there weren't any evil people. And because there weren't any evil people, so therefore, why did I lose this thing here? How could it possibly be? Why? Okay. Okay, what can we do? So it says because they were so righteous, so they made it that they taught the whole generation, and there were no evil people in the generation. So their righteousness spread to everybody that there was there. So what is the et kashti natati b'anan? I will put my rainbow in the sky. Now, what's this thing of the rainbow? The rainbow is like a bow and arrow. A bow and arrow, if used properly, is a terrible weapon. I mean, it's an awesome, scary weapon. A bow and arrow. That used to be like the gun at one time. But it used to be before the bow and arrow. I don't know if there ever was such a time, but before the bow and arrow was developed, as people had to fight hand-to-hand combat. The best you got was to throw a spear. But with a bow, you could stand like hundreds of yards away and you could kill somebody. The person didn't even know who he was, right? Who was killing him. You could shoot. There was long bows and this type of bows. So, but that was a sign of war. But when you turn the bow with the string facing the enemy, this was a sign of peace. Let's see if we have over here. There's a lot of opinions why it says the Kli Ykar, and he brings that. I see that first of all, it's a natural thing. The sun shines through the clouds or whatever, the vapor, and there's a rainbow. So what's the big deal? Well, with that, why is that a sign? So he said the reason is because if there's thick clouds and the atmosphere is too thick, then you can't see a rainbow. So that's what it was when God created the world. It says that there was no rain because men didn't work on the ground. They worked and evaporation came up, and that's what made rain. But when people sin, so it becomes so thick that it's not for the benefit of people anymore. And so therefore, that's what happened with the flood. The flood was there was so much clouds and water gathered so much in the heavens. And so because there was so much water in it, as God didn't release the water, He released it all at one time. So therefore, there was no, vapor in the air. It was all condensed in these clouds. So now, this he brings also from the Ramban. He says, this is what the Ramban wants to say, that the whole idea was that after the flood, is that the whole atmosphere became refined. So God said, now, even when people sin, so that you'll see that my light shines through. And that's the sign of this thing. In addition to the fact that God's saying, I'm making peace with you, right? I'm turning the bow around in the opposite direction so that it won't punish you anymore. That's what it says. When it goes up on my mind to make darkness and destruction in the world, so I'll remember this, the rainbow, and I won't make any more. There's another place in the Zohar that says when there's a rainbow, it's a sign of Mashiach. And that's because the same idea that the light is shining through the world. It's shining through the physicality of the world. So it says this will be. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's what he says here. This is what I wanted to read. He said that because there was so much darkness in the world, so God says, I'm going to take away this darkness and I'm going to shine light through it. In other words, my mercy will still come through. And that's what he said. Oh, here it is. Every generation will be, will because of the good deeds that will come down, and also because of this covenant, even though they don't have the good deeds, God looks at this covenant and reminds the promise that he made to man, that there's promise and hope for all humanity. Look at this covenant between me and you and between all living things, also the animals. I won't wipe them out anymore to destroy all flesh. And this keshet will be ba'anan, and the rainbow will be in the sun, in the clouds. I'll see it and remember this eternal covenant that I made with all flesh, and I will not destroy mankind anymore. Says the Sforno, I will eshgiach, I'll be careful that the mesovev mimenu v'hu tefilas tzadikim. I'll be careful to listen to the prayers of the righteous people. I'll give them a more, value than the sins that are people doing. And therefore, the tzaddikim will be able to stand between my anger and the world, and I will remember the covenant. And God said to Noach, this is the covenant that I'm putting between you and the flesh that is in the world. It says, by the way, a person is not supposed to look at if you happen to see a rainbow, there's even a blessing you made it, but it says that there's a custom not to tell people, look at the beautiful rainbow, because the rainbow is a sign that people are not good. So we'll talk about this, God willing, tomorrow. But tomorrow there will be a class, 8:15 in the morning, Chassidus, with God's help. Have a good day with Mashiach now.